Hello, boys and girls. Today we have a very special guest. Just like every week, like every week you have a special guest. Actually, anyone that is willing to come on this podcast is very special to me. So, who is this? Today we have Mr. Johnny Wong. Mr. Johnny Wong. How I got to know?
Hello.
Hello. How I got to know Mr. Johnny Wong is from. I think my first impression of Mr. Johnny Wong is from the swimming club. That's how we got to know each other. That's how
Yep.
we got to get closer to each other. Very became quite friendly with each other. I could say we are friends actually.
Yeah.
And then after that he moved after the swimming club. I think you went on to be the student council president.
Mhm.
And then I remember people having very interesting conversations with you, conversations that they could not dispute in the cafeteria area when you were doing surveys. So we can get into that later. But
Right.
how's it going? Da da da. Pun intended. Name of the show. How's it going, Mr. Johnny Wong?
Yeah. Hi everyone. It's nice. First of all, thank you, Justin, for bringing me to this podcast. I am very appreciative that you find me very interesting. As if I can be put into the same league as Jenny L, then I'm blown away already. My level of interesting it's nowhere compared to her. But aside from the fact, yeah, life is going great. I feel like I'm in a very privileged position. So everything has been going fine. Career is doing well. We can jump into that. Personal life in terms of my marriage, that's coming up. So that's also doing very well. Yeah, I mean, family are healthy. Other than the fact that I'm also very grateful that I've just recovered from COVID. So I'm very
Hey,
grateful for that. We're not in the cool kids club, yeah, cool kids club. Yeah,
so okay. You said you're saying that because of my story, right? Because I also got COVID like about a month ago.
that's right, that's right.
Yes. Did you get the Omicron, the new cool kids variant?
How do you determine that you have Omicron? Yeah.
Okay, so they were not able to tell me which variant I had, but based on my
Mhm.
symptoms, they say Omicron is a lot more upper airway. So it's dry throat, runny nose, itchy throat kind of thing. So based on that, I feel like I had Omicron. I feel like it was
Right,
Omicron. That's how it is
right.
determined. You?
Yeah, going by your description, yes. I think the worst. I had fever, but I think the worst one was sore throat. It was
Mm,
really, really dry, and when I woke up that morning, I couldn't really, speak, and I had to drink a lot of fluid in order to
yes.
enable, it to recover faster. And then I think by around 3 hours to 4 hours, then I could probably speak already, lah.
Wow.
So
Okay. Sounds
going
like
going
yours
by
is
that,
more.
Omicron as well, lah. I think not Delta probably. Yeah.
Yeah, Delta seems like it's more lung related, so you have like chest pain and stuff like that. I didn't have that,
Mhm.
fortunately. But yeah, based on my symptoms, I think it's Omicron. Also, the funny thing is, I don't know if you felt this, but even when you drank water, right, your throat after the water went down, it was still dry. Feel like
Yeah.
there was no real. And then after you were negative, do you still have symptoms for maybe a week like that?
Negative by the sense that you do your COVID self test, is it?
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, I've just been released, I think 2 to 3 days ago.
Oh,
So today I think I still feel a bit of coughing, but I won't treat it as a like a COVID symptom anymore lah. So I
I
think
see.
I've recovered already.
I see. For me, after
Yeah.
I was negative, I still had like Chinese New Year when you eat too much kacang and the 很热 the feeling in your throat area. Yeah, so I was
Very
having that
heaty.
very heaty feeling for about a week and a half. Even after I was negative, I still had the
Mhm.
like side effects, which I think I can consider them as COVID symptoms. I wasn't sick otherwise. I just had
Right,
this very heaty feeling, so that was uncomfortable.
right.
But okay, let's get into the gist of it. Mr. Johnny Wong, right now, when I got to know you, right, one of the most interesting things I found was that
Mhm.
you were an environmental engineer. And to me, that
Right.
was I think that course or that this option wasn't around when I joined Curtin, so there was no
Mhm.
environmental engineering course. And I think you might be the first batch of graduates from
I
Curtin,
am.
right? Yes. Okay.
I
Yeah.
am. I
So
am.
an environmental engineer. I have an auntie that is an environmental engineer as well.
Ooh, nice.
But she's in West Malaysia. I believe she's an
Mhm.
environmental engineer, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's one of the most unique things about you. I mean, among all the other unique things about you, like you being Johnny Wong. But can you like give us a quick description of what an environmental engineer does?
Yeah, I can sort of give you a download on what an environmental engineer does. So an environmental engineer, in essence, in Malaysia, right, environmental engineer, there's always two branches. That's how they classify it to me. My seniors classify it to me. It's either you have the a more civil kind of approach to environment, or you
Yeah.
have the more chemical type of approach to environment. So when you talk about civil, it will be things like your longkan, like yeah, hydrology, water, groundwater, that kind of thing, and how does all those play in a part together. And as opposed to chemical bit, you will have all your toxicity, that kind of thing, chemicals play into environment. That is the two branches of environment. So for my very specific case, in Curtin, what we had the more civil branch. So we did hydrology,
Mm.
we did groundwater, we look at aquifers, that kind of thing. But all in all, when you come out to society, and as with all the other graduates, I think everyone can attest to that. Whatever you learn, you might use like 10% to 20% of it, and
Yes.
more of it is all coming from your soft skills, like yeah, all the things, your critical thinking skills, your analytical skills. I think employers will be definitely be looking for those kind of skills instead.
Mm,
So
mm,
environmental
mm.
engineer. So when I come out, I first thing that my manager gave me, my to my sort of my little section of area is to do environmental data reporting and monitoring. So
Mm.
in that aspect, it's like it's a very sort of very, you could call it a very mundane job, in a sense that you're
Oh.
just putting Excels together, linking this and that, but in the sense that you have to find your purpose,
Mm.
and see where you can improve upon the system. So when I first joined, I see like there's a lot of inefficiencies in the system, so
Mm.
I go and improve. Bring this, using this tool, bring it together, find experts to see like where we can improve,
Mm.
and then we go from there. So my job, as an environmental engineer, right now I'm more in the carbon space.
Mm.
So what I've learned back in uni was more like things like water, things like waste, things like Malaysian regulation, that kind of thing. But when I came into the role currently, I'm an environment advisor actually in Shell.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of like maybe engineers, you guys do a lot. With myself, we do a lot of calculation back in uni, right? So I
Okay.
don't really do a lot of those. I think the most difficult things I had to do in terms of calculation would be like calculating uncertainties. I think that's a
Oh.
very pain point of people.
Okay. Okay.
But other than that, it's more of a carbon, more of a strategic approach, more of a delivery, and other things. If you're talking about pure environment, then you have things like impact assessment. You look at your current facilities. Like let's say we want to have a project now, lah. We
Okay.
want to put it in the middle of the sea. We want to put a platform down, and then connect, build a pipeline and link it all the way to our facility somewhere in Bintulu. Like maybe let's just say Bintulu.
Okay.
So we got to look at impact assessment. We got to look at what is the impact of our activities towards the sensitive receptors in the vicinity. So what impact does it have to like the marine ecology, the fishes, and maybe how you manage your waste. How do you manage, let's say, your pipeline? You're gonna do a crossing all the way all to Bintulu. Are you sure that there's no any sensitive areas such as coral habitats in the on the sea surface, basically? So you got
Mm.
to do
Mm.
a lot of baseline activity. You got to do your monitoring. You got to make sure that the path, you are very clear on what you're doing, lah. So
I see.
that's sort of what I do nowadays. A lot of reporting, a lot of impact assessments, and a
I
lot of
see.
strategic fixing, I think, lah, and operational
I,
improvement as well.
and
So
then
yeah,
like
hope that helps much. Yeah.
no, yeah. So like for your when you say you do the monitoring and you need to understand whether your pipe travels through any coral reefs or stuff like that, right? To
Mhm.
what extent does your responsibility extend to? Like, are you the one that actually goes down and does the monitoring, collects the data, or do you work with
Mhm.
previously collected data? Like how far do you need to go? Do you have to take a boat or take a ship out there and do the scanning of the seabed and things like that, or is it the data is mostly there and you just need to observe or pick the best path? Let's say for the routing of the pipes, pick
Mhm.
the best path. So like to what extent? How far does it go?
Right. Okay. So going back to the first one, which is, it really depends on how familiar you're with the area. If let's say you're very familiar, you have been there for 40 years, and your facility is just like you have an existing facility, you're just adding another one just right beside it. Yes,
Mm,
you will still need to do an impact assessment based on our Malaysian law.
mm,
But you're very familiar with the area. You know what are the existing conditions because you have been there for 40 years. Very differently, if you have a platform, let's say in a new area, in a very you have never gone there before, that's
mm,
when you will have to go out and collect. So I am not involved in going onto a ship and going out there to take a sample.
mm.
I would very much like to have that experience, but
Okay.
as of now, we employ a contractor, our environmental consultant.
Mm,
Who will help to do the work for us? Because in a sense, right, if when you're doing impact assessment, you don't want the project proponent, which is in this case Shell, to be the one doing the assessment, because you need to have that
ah,
third party view to come in to say, look, Shell is to tell the government, look, Shell is doing this project, and this is their impact. This is their potential impact to the environment, and what
I
are
see.
the suggested mitigation that we want Shell to take in order to protect the environment and not to cause any unnecessary damage to the environment.
I
Yeah.
see. So if Shell could do it themselves, but to remove the conflict of interest, like, because right, I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
yeah, remove the conflict of interest. It would be best to get one third party or two third parties to go and do the observation, do the monitoring, and then report back to. So the government is like the middleman to tell Shell, okay, according to our third party evaluators, they say that you are not supposed to go through here, here, here. These are your restricted areas. You must route beyond this area. So like just to be how's it, unbiased lah, unbiased.
Correct. So normally, like the
Mm,
project team will come up with a lot of. There's a lot of processes, when you come up with a project, you got to explore a lot of opportunities. And definitely
mm,
the project team will come up with a lot of concepts. Like option one, we're going to route the pipeline directly straight from the platform to the gathering facility. That will,
okay.
of course, mean that it's most cost effective. And in terms of
Mm,
maintenance, you don't have those bends that I think will cause other complication.
mm.
But I think one thing that I need to tell everyone listeners over here is I don't speak for Shell. Yeah, I'm in no
Okay.
way or form I'm speaking for Shell. This is my personal opinion, my personal thing. So don't
Okay.
quote me in anything related to Shell. Yeah,
Okay. Yes.
I
Yes.
need
Yes.
to put
Let's
it out
let's
there. Yeah,
yes. Yes. Let's make it clear that Mr. Johnny Wong is still pretty junior as an engineer as well, or
correct, correct.
as are all of us. So I'm sure some senior engineer will be listening to us and saying, wow, these two who do they think they are talking so much?
Yeah,
But yeah. Just
correct.
disclaimer: we don't know whether what we are saying is correct or not. Yeah,
Yeah,
just two kids talking right now.
yeah. Two kids
Okay.
gonna get married, but talking. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, two kids, man. I'm 28. I forgot you are 26, right? 2 years younger than me.
I like to think that I'm 25 until my birthday has passed until I'm
Okay,
26.
so
So I like to think
technically,
that I'm
yeah.
25 plus plus. Yeah.
Okay, then in that case, I'm 27 plus plus. My birthday is in September, so I'm
We're more or
27
less two
plus
years
plus.
apart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more or
we're
less
more
two
or
years
less 2 years.
apart. More or less 2 years
Awesome.
apart. So, like, okay, then let's rewind a bit. We spoke about what your responsibilities are at Shell. So, I think what's the most another interesting thing is, a lot of people our age when they go to university, they graduate. Some people take petroleum engineering, chemical engineering, environmental engineering. But a lot of people in Sarawak, especially, look to work in an oil and gas company like Shell, Petronas, things like that. So
Mhm.
maybe like can you elaborate on the process, like how you got a job in Shell, and also something interesting about you and the previous student council president Jude is both of you work in Shell. So
Right.
oh, is there a do you find that okay, some traits that you definitely I think this is like a definite definitely I know the answer to the question is that did your position as a student council president help you get your job at Shell, or did that leadership role help you secure this job at Shell?
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think you've already told the answer already, which is
yeah.
definitely yes. But let me bring it back to the recruitment process of
Yep.
Shell and the thought. Let's start with the thought process of it. So whenever a recruiter, looks at a resume application that comes in, of course they will look at all the credentials that you have. What is your field, and whether your field meets a certain vacancy that we have in the company. All right. So okay, if you have a very good scores, you have already done the online assessment that Shell has, then of course you are able to progress to the next stage. But what really sets people apart, is what other activities that you do. We may all be on the we may all have the same high CGPA, for example. We may be all high flyers, but in a sense that how you set yourself apart, how the recruiter will look at it is they will look at what other activities you have in your resume, and that would
Mm.
be things like Curtin Swimming Club, things like student council that you've mentioned. How active were you volunteering during your university times? That will
Okay.
then set the tone and set apart one candidate from another.
Mm.
So student council really, when I went for student council, I also had the, sort of the mindset, the drive really to the really the big drive came from I wanted to improve myself. So
Okay.
that's really a mindset I have. Like, okay, I've done so many activities in Curtin already. What's the logical next step for me to take in order to
Mm.
progress my improve my thinking skills, improve my communication skills and whatnot.
Okay.
So how I did it then was just go for student council, go through the election process, and then fortunately I managed to sort of win the election, and I stepped into that role. It was a really big learning curve for me. I cannot say that for my predecessors. Some of them are really really fantastic and really good people,
Mm.
but myself I really struggled for the first few months as president of student council.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there comes the struggle and there comes the learning from it lah. And that is the learning that the recruiter would like to see when you apply for a job. They are able to read from your the things that you say, the experiences you share. They are able to see from that and land a job in Shell lah. But if you want me to go through the nitty gritty process of applying, I can go
No,
through, but I'm not sure whether you want lah.
that
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. I think hearing what you said, it really helps anyone, like all the five listeners, right? I'm sure one of them would like to join
Mhm.
Shell someday. Also, all of my 5 or 6 listeners. At this point, I think the listeners are like all our mutual friends. I'm still trying to break out of this circle, but yeah, that's something. That's something that you ever since I got to know you in a swimming club, that's the impression I got from you. You have you're first of all, you're very good at communicating. Second of all, you have very good command of English, and also you have the, I don't know, like for lack of a better word, you have the vibe of a leader lah. I feel like you have the vibe of a leader. So even though like
Hey, thank
I
you.
didn't, and that's where I come to a point where I usually say the age of someone doesn't really matter to me. I don't really care like if you are 10 years older than me, 5 years younger than me. It doesn't really matter because even though you were 2 years older than me, I was IT guy, right, in the swimming club. So even though you were 2 years younger than me, I never felt like, oh, I don't want to listen to this kid talk. He's just a junior. Why should I listen to him? Your competence made people look past whatever age gap there was between you and whoever it was. I think that's something that you had even when you were leading the swimming club. You already had that kind of leadership mentality in you. So I think naturally for you, right, that it made sense for you to go to student council, which brings me to the topic I was mentioning in the start of the video. I remember, okay, what was I think when you took the student council president position, one of the things that you always heard people complain on campus is not enough parking space, right? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe
Yeah.
you already know where I'm going towards this. So
No, go ahead.
my girlfriend told me once that when you were walking around the canteen, surveying, doing surveys lah, asking people what they thought about the parking situation in canteen, then then uh, then you asked my girlfriend, oh, what do you think the problem is with the parking situation right now? And then my girlfriend said, yeah, basically there's no parking spaces. And then you took out like data, right, raw data, and said, actually, right, at the, what's it called? GP3? No, what's it called? The badminton court there is called what? I forgot now.
Badminton court. Rec hall ah? Is it rec
Rec hall.
hall?
Okay, yeah. So
Rec hall.
so you said, so actually at the rec hall there, we went and calculated there are like extra 150 to 200 or something like some number empty parking spots there that nobody is taking up. So actually there are parking spots, and then people were like, oh shit, like So actually, what people wanted to say, maybe people wanted to say was, there is no parking spots close to where where my class is. Yes, but actually, if they want to say there is no parking spots, right, there is actually plenty of parking spots all around campus. But it's just, if you first come first serve. So if you come early, you get the parking spot that's closer to wherever you want to go to. But that's something that when she came back and told me that, right, then I said, damn, like that's a very good argument. Like you have the raw data and there's no follow up question after that anymore. Like people cannot say, hey, no, that's not what I meant. Maybe that's not what they meant, but I feel like showing the raw data, right, is really I don't know. I feel like that was kind of like a checkmate. Like there are parking spots. You just lazy to walk, which is true for most of us.
I'm guilty of that as well. And if I'm a student, I will also be complaining that there's no parking spots lah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but I guess the intention is not to put it out. Yes, it's a valid concern that you could argue from the point that look, there's parking spots even outside of campus. You can park outside and walk in. How far is the parking spot to your eventual destination? You will classify it's inhuman for someone to walk that far. So that argument will come into play. Do you want to park at Lakeside and walk all the way to Red Hole for a walk of around 12-15 minutes? It's really arguable and really depends on the person. But at the end of the day, we did bring to management to tell them, we have this issue. You have not enough parking space in areas where we really need it. But at the end of the day, our power, as student, we can only influence so much.
Right.
Yeah, we can only influence and not put in to say, look, we want the curtain
Right.
as a company who is very much angling for profits and whatnot, because they're much run like a business. So that's when they need to think from a business perspective as well as what makes sense to them. Would having more parking spots enable me to get more students to come to cutting? Probably not the best way. Marketing could be a better way. Improving facilities like labs or having a new building that will probably attract more students to the campus. And even more offering more kind of different subjects like environmental engineering. That's something very new. You offer that and people could come to university.
Right. Actually, like what you said, right, it actually gives me a different perspective that I didn't really have, at the time. Because like when you join student council as a student council president or any committee member in the student council, you are basically this barrier between the students and the management of the campus, right? So
not barrier, but I would say bridge.
Sorry, bridge. Sorry. Yeah, wrong choice of words. Yeah, bridge. Yeah, the bridge or the what's the word? What's a better word? Okay, bridge. Okay, bridge between the students and the management. But you see, like what you said, right? The thought that it may not be the best use of the funds to go and build another car park closer. I never thought about that actually. If you didn't mention it, then when you mention it, right, then only I think, oh yeah, that does make sense, right? It's impossible to say, oh, let's go spend 2 million ringgit to build a 1 acre car park. Extend this car park by another 1 acre, just for the sake of people don't need to walk so far. It doesn't really make sense, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, but at the time, as a student, when you drive around the campus and you cannot find parking, that's not what goes through your head. It's like, oh, yeah. But then now when you mention it, and also because I'm not a student there anymore, then there's a new perspective, a new appreciation, some empathy there for they have a limited amount of money, they have to spend it wisely. They need to increase the number of student intakes. Makes sense, man. Makes sense. I think I have a follow-up question to that. Is like, as a student council member, did you find that it was difficult to influence or difficult to get the points across? I mean, get the wants and needs of the students across to management. Like, did you find it was difficult, or was it like, oh, actually they are very open or very keen to do things that student wants, or is it like falling on deaf ears or that?
I would say it really depends on the person you're trying to influence. Every person has a different agenda in their head. So I did find that different personnel had different really characters that you have to change up your influencing skill to. Like for example, if I really don't want to put names on it, but if you have there's an admin manager in Curtin. I think she
Mm,
was a very open person because she was the
mm,
person in charge of the buses, routes, timings, cafeteria food, anything to do with the general admin of the campus. So she was a very open person. So like, Johnny, please come to me with any recommendations or suggestions you have, and we
okay.
will try to work towards that direction. And anytime that we had a suggestion, we tell her like, look, we want the timing to shift a little bit. This timing works better. This number of tricks work better to students, especially
Mm,
during events time, for example.
mm,
Then she'll be very receptive towards those ideas, and she's very open to like exploring different things that we want to recommend as well. Maybe new technology, but definitely that would depend on the budget lah.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that you have a pool of people that's very easy to talk to, very receptive, and you have
Mm,
another group of people who are really difficult, I would say, in a sense that
okay.
any case, their agenda is like fixed already. They don't need you to come in to say we want certain improvement in this area. They say whatever
Mm,
they're doing, it's good enough already for the purpose and intent, and fair enough. But they keep it at a very fixed mindset that we cannot improve anymore. Our budget is like this. We just do it this way. It has been working in the past. Why do we not improve in the future? And that's why I think change management, as you grow older, like change management is very important. We need to ensure that we always improve lah.
yeah, right, right,
So
right,
yeah,
right.
two groups of people lah. It really depends on the person rather than the systemic, the culture in Curtin. I don't think it's there lah. Mm.
Right. That's cool. That's I mean, okay, lah, means like there is no it's not like it's not a perfect system and it's not a corrupt system. It just depends who you are talking to at the time and
Correct.
whether that person is more open minded or more rigid lah. Let's use the word rigid lah. Right.
Yeah.
So like just now you mentioned like the bus timings or the satisfaction with the food like that. There's this lady that
Mm.
you can go to talk about these kind of things, right? So like how do you
Correct.
get this data? Like how do you get the data that this timing is better than this timing? Or we should shift it back by 15 minutes because students actually finish class by and they need to walk over from rec hall or something like that. Like do the students go up to you and like are they very vocal students? Because personally I don't know anyone that has done that before, but do students go to you and say, "Hey, I feel like the timings is a
Mm.
bit off. I always come and I miss the bus by 1 minute. Can we shift it back for 15 minutes?" Or and then like the dissatisfaction of the food. Is it a pull or a push? Do people go to you with the data, or do you go out
Mm.
and do surveys about the data?
Um, at the start, it's more of a push. I will go out
Okay.
and get it, but as I more evolve more in the role, mature more in the role, it's more of a pull, and I have to rely on my student council members. Shout out to them if they listen to this. They have been very supportive, and they're
Mm,
very good people.
mm,
So you in Curtin, it's a very 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 special, very unique place where you have what we call very influencing people. Right,
mm.
you have the key people that everyone knows, and these are the people that would be very vocal about things, and they would come to you with they have already combined the voices of other people and come to you with their problem. So
Students
definitely
are.
when students, so
Wow.
very key people that we always identify, and we know these people when they're vocal, it actually means something lah.
Mm,
I would think that as we become, and when we go into the pool phase, I don't think we would have gone to the data gathering process already, and we relied on the voices of the people. What do
mm.
they really want? And we hear them, and then we talk to the management and say, "Can we shift this?" And it's more of a also more of a experimentation because it's really dynamic. However we want to do it. So if
Mm.
we do this way, and suddenly there's another, we listen to the feedback, and there's another thing, then we go by trial and error. We can quickly just revert it or change it a bit, shift one thing to another here, then it will work better. So one example is like it's like the library opening hours. Library used to close at 12 a.m. So we heard the voices of this. We didn't do any sort of big data collection, but we know that students want the library to be open until maybe like a later bit into the night because some of them are really night owls. So we basically we lobbied for that. We advocated that students want that position, and they tested it out. So library went to test it out. They extended to 2 a.m. They got a part-time person to come in to do the clicking thing. If you notice, when you're studying in
Oh,
library, someone that's coming up to click, 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 click. That's
yes,
when
yes,
they're
yes.
gathering data to present to management. Okay, once we've extended to 2 a.m., how many students were there? And management was very surprised to see that, on the first glance, they were like, there's not going to be anyone that's going to be there. But when they received the result, they were quite shocked and surprised to
Okay.
see that there's so many people using the library until 2 a.m. So that's why after 2017, they started to just extend it to 2 a.m., especially during the exam period.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. 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 That makes so much sense. Okay. So I mean, then that shows like that the perspective from management, right? Because they haven't been students for I don't know how long they've been working citizens, right? So they probably didn't know that because for me, right, during curtain time, during university time, studying up until I don't know, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning was very normal for me. It wasn't because like, oh, I had not enough time, but it was just the best time for me to study. I feel like
Mm,
I no distractions. But yeah, it just shows that, the the people that handle the things may not have the perspective until you show them actually the raw data, right? You show them the raw
correct.
data. Yeah, actually that's one of the things that I also learned when I was at Intel, working at Intel. I got to know a very, very, very skilled and very talented senior engineer, Jason
Mhm.
Sandri. His name. Shout out, Mr. Jason Sandri. He actually taught me a lot of things that were actually unrelated to Intel specifically, but applies to any kind of job that you want to do. Doesn't have to be engineering even. So one of the most important things he told me before is don't argue with anyone. If you want to convince someone, right, the best way to convince someone is with data. Show them the raw data. Show them that I've collected this, and there is no argument already when it's documented. When it's laid
The
in
fact,
front of
yeah.
you, right? Yeah, and documented and compiled and clean, right? And so people know, okay, this is what this message, this data, you just the raw data in an Excel sheet, you cannot see any patterns. So if you can
Mm,
show, okay, it's like 10 p.m. there were 50 people, 11 p.m. 50 people, 12 a.m. 50 people, and then up until 2 a.m. there were still 40 people in the library, right? It means that, okay,
mm,
we can see that there is a very short drop off over this peak, as this actually considered a peak hour for students, and if they were not forced to go back at 2, they probably would have stayed there even longer, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's like something cool, like that. Talking about the car park thing that you mentioned earlier, and also the students thing, the data is like super
Right.
important. I'm sure you experienced this as
Correct.
well as an engineer at Shell.
Yeah. Of course, data is very important. Data is in its raw form is something that is not very sexy, lah. It's something that's
Yes.
very bogging. It's how you transform that data and make it presentable in a sense that when management looks at it, because management will be the one that's steering the company, making the key decisions. When they take a look at it, what kind of insights do they gain from it? What kind of message that your data is going to deliver so that management can make the right decision? So I
Right.
think that's very critical, lah. Off top of my head, I can't think of an example. But probably throughout my work, I've really experienced that as well, lah.
Yep, yeah. Actually, what I realized when I was working is like in the process of recording the data, right? Just the action of recording the data, right? A lot of things can happen. You can find that your argument is invalid because you didn't
Mm,
consider a lot of things. Because when you want to present to someone, you will find that the amount of data you were collecting is insufficient to support your argument, and then you will move left, you will move right, and then you will find that, hey, actually, my data is not as clean as I thought, or my
mm,
argument is suddenly invalid. And also, the action of recording the data, right, actually helps to it actually forces you. It actually forces you to take more data points and find out. Okay, is it really true what I'm saying? What I'm my assumption? What my
correct.
guesses are? Because when I just joined the company, my first company, I would, I would go up to people and say, hey, I tried that. I tried this. Didn't work. But then, because those conversations, right, actually were not fruitful at all. Because in the end, the person I'm talking to, they are very nice. They are very,
Mhm,
being very understanding. That's because I'm quite a
mhm,
junior engineer. But so they wouldn't call me out and say, hey, don't waste my time with this conversation, right? Go and collect more data first before we continue because it's wasting
mhm.
time. So then it would be like, oh, back and forth for 15 minutes, right? But actually it amounted to nothing because a lot of assumptions will happen.
Correct.
Whereas
Yeah.
those conversations where I actually prepared for it, right? I took some time to think about it. Then think about it, collect the data, and go and approach the senior. Those were very quick, but also very fruitful because they can see okay, this is correct. This is wrong. Do it another way. Okay, then we should do this based on this data. So
Right.
I think that's something that
Right.
applies to all kinds of engineer. Even now, I'm not doing Intel related things. I'm doing software related things also. It's the way you think rather than your skill set, that really matters. How you think about your problem, how you approach the problem, how you solve the problem.
Yeah.
Process of emulation.
Yeah, maybe I can step in here just to chip in. For I
Yes.
just want to applaud you for acknowledging that sometimes your thought at the start, what you think in a certain way, what you're very certain about, and once the data comes out that says that you're wrong, you're completely wrong, you're able to acknowledge and accept the fact that you made a mistake, and I think that's very mature that everyone should once you make a mistake, accept it, that is your mistake, learn from it. I think it's the most important thing. Don't let it
Yes.
be pinned on you, and don't labor too much on it that this is a very critical business. No, we just want people to learn. I think that's very important. And talking
Yeah.
about assumptions, we like to make assumption in our roles, and even in our life we like to make assumption when we look at a certain thing. There's a certain scenario that occur. We like to make assumption.
Yep.
I sometimes find myself making assumptions that are actually quite dangerous, like things that you shouldn't assume in a certain way, but just look at the facts and just how to say just look at the facts and make your decision based on the fact rather than all those assumptions that are flying into your mind lah.
All your
Yeah.
feelings, right? Yeah.
Yeah, your feelings play a big part on what you do. If you humans are very emotional beings. We make our decisions based on our emotion. It's very rare that we can be a computer and make all the correct and logical steps. What decisions to make. Not be angry, very difficult lah. Sometimes we get very
Very-
frustrated. When the emotion is there, like a Formula One driver, when the emotion is there, you
Hey.
can be very that one. So yeah.
Yes. Very nice transition into Formula One. I also realized recently that you are also a Formula One fanboy. I don't know if you are. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a super fanboy. I just, I find it Formula One interesting. The reason why I realized is because like throughout the 2021 season, I basically watch every race and everything. So I would occasionally I would post about F1 stuff, and then you would reply, and then it would be very obvious that you also watched it as well, and you have context about what's going on. So that's something like we can talk about that next, like your interest in F1 and when did it start, all these things.
Yeah. Maybe let's just spend a bit of time in this because I know that for the past few podcasts you have spent a lot of time talking about F1. We don't want our listeners to be just F1 centric.
F1 podcast.
But yeah, I think I can relate that when you talk to Vinod about watching it during the Schumacher days. I was a kid that was supporting Schumacher. I even had a Ferrari uniform, for lack of a better word. But after that, I really fell off. I didn't really want to look into F1 anymore until I watched DTS. That's how Netflix brought all the young audiences back to Formula One again.
Same.
There's so much complexity that you don't see cars just going around in laps. You don't see it if you just watch the sport itself. But the media behind it, the stories behind it tells a more compelling story and drive and pull people in. You have a certain attachment towards the driver. You may be a very big fan of Charles Leclerc. Anything Leclerc do, I want to know about it. That's when that behind pull out with social media and all. That's how they pull you back. So I support Max Verstappen purely from an underdog perspective.
Yes.
I wanted to support the kid on the block.
Yes.
Agree with your point that Hamilton, it's a bit of a hypocrite. I agree. I told you on Instagram as well, and I can own up to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
okay, it's nice to see that. It's nice to see that. My thoughts are, and because I feel like it's not just me and you. A lot of Max Verstappen fans feel that Hamilton is somewhat of a crybaby hypocrite. But when Vinod gave me a bit of a different perspective. I still am not a Hamilton fanboy. I don't really
No.
like Hamilton. But the perspective that he was very commendable for being very quiet at the end of the race. But in all honesty, I feel like Michael Messi really messed up the last race. I feel like
now he's fired for it. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
No. Now he's fired for it.
Yes, he got fired yesterday or 2 days ago, right? Yesterday I think he got fired. And then now he's actually being replaced by 2 or 3 people. Like they will shift roles or something, right? Yeah, I think. To be very honest, right, as much as I love Max, he got super lucky in the last race. I think he was super lucky, and I mean, the fact that only the 5 cars in between them can unlap Lewis only, and then they didn't have to wait one more lap before the race start. I mean, before they unlap and everything. A lot of rules were not banned, but a lot of gray area there. Hopefully, hopefully this year, right, we don't have any more of these unpredictable things, because like in Brazil when those weird overtakes happen off the track, on the track kind of thing, right, then because those things happen and there were no repercussions, right, then
Correct.
naturally their drivers will say, if you punish me for this, then why didn't you punish him for that? Like this kind of things, this kind of discussion will happen.
The consistency needs to be there.
Yes, the consistency needs to be there. So I would say hopefully 2022 is more consistent. So dish out punishments. What was the most unsatisfying thing for me on the last race was when the advantage was returned when Lewis.
I didn't understand that. I was like, what is that?
What was that? Like, what the hell? How do you mean advantage was returned? Right before the corner, they were side by side, right? Or Max was in front. After the corner, Lewis is in front by 100 meters. Oh, don't tell me advantage is returned, man. That's not advantage returned.
Maybe it's just us not having a good understanding of the F1 rulebook. It could be that we don't understand what advantage really means, and we just come from a fan perspective, of a Max Verstappen fanboy perspective, that anything that's not to our advantage, we will cry baby about it.
Maybe that's yes. That's the different thing. We are Max Verstappen.
I think we need to acknowledge it as well,
yes. Like I told Vinod as well. Like how I always say it's unjust for Bottas to give position to Lewis, right? I always say, Mercedes always treat Bottas unfairly, ask Bottas to give his place to Lewis. But then you think about it, actually towards the end of the season, a lot of times also Checo tow for Max or give Max the position, especially in the last race as well, when the 7-second gap dropped down to 1 second. And then he just, that was legendary, man. That was like the most epic moment in that. No, last lap was the most epic moment, but that was definitely the second most epic. The fact that Checo got overtook, took a position back. Wow, that was good racing. The last race, right? Because we rent a room in Singapore here, so we cannot really shout or anything, But on the last lap, right? Okay, Latifi crashed. Okay, let's reenact the moments. Latifi crashed because he was okay. There's this lore that I saw on Reddit, right? The reason why Lewis did not break the 7-time world champion record is because of Mick. So why? You know why? Because you know why Latifi crashed? Latifi crashed because he was fighting with Mick.
All right.
Yeah, he was fighting about the position with Mick, and then because he was pushing himself so hard, he crashed. So then Mick didn't crash. So Latifi crashed, caused a red flag, safety car. All the 5 cars can unlap themselves. Max Verstappen can change tires. Max Verstappen world champion. So indirectly, right, in a very very connect kind of way, right, Mick Schumacher helped his father retain the 7-time world champion record.
A very big butterfly effect,
very big butterfly effect. But I think I'm not sure if you heard the Drive to Survive is coming out in, I think, next week.
March 11 March, I think 11 March.
11 March. Okay, then so Drive to Survive will come out. I think Max Verstappen will not be involved in this season. Yeah, he should start.
I think he will be the antagonist of the show. They like Netflix like to put as one person as antagonist. Like Max will be the antagonist, and someone that all the fans like will be the protagonist. Whoever it could be. And then they like to say, with certain rivalries, made up rivalries, like Esteban Ocon and
Checo.
I can't remember who, made up rivalries, and then that it didn't happen, and they're hugging it out on the track. Sometimes it's a very, very false portrayal, but it gets people involved. The drama pulls people in to watch the show, so that's fine.
Yes. So that's one of the things. Sorry, please continue.
I remember I remember I saw your. I think we were very high after the final race. I remember watching your video reel on Instagram. It was like, ooh, I can sense the all the emotions that you pour into it, and that last gap of Hamilton nearly coming back, overtaking Verstappen.
Oh,
That
no,
moment,
no, no, no,
yeah,
no, 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 no. And then, oh, hang like
that
that, hang
emotion,
swang. That time,
yeah,
yeah, that was like, I mean, I didn't even realize, I sounded like I was moaning on the video that I was
yeah,
recorded.
yeah. You
No,
were,
no,
you
no,
were.
no. Like that. Like, okay, so just, I have to post now. Sorry for the moaning. But, that was like you said, I actually started watching Drive to Survive in 2019, 2019 2020, I think. 2020. Drive to Survive. So 2020 season was the previous year, and then season 2 was still being recorded, I think. And then that time, right, I didn't watch the whole season, so I actually didn't like Checo because I think in season 1 that's how they portray Checo. Checo is this rich guy, got all the sponsorship from Mexico, and then because of all his sponsorship position, he's the one that can stay in Force India, and Ocon doesn't have a lot of sponsorships backing him up, so Ocon have to leave, and then that's how Ocon lost his seat. So then I don't know, from the way they portray Checo in that season, it made him look like a bad guy. But after, and then so I didn't like Checo for like the whole 2020 season. I didn't like Checo until I realized Checo is actually a super nice guy, super good guy actually. And if I think it can be argued that if there was no Checo, right, there will be no Max Verstappen as a champion as well, right? Checo actually.
I think that's very much agreeable lah. If he didn't pull what he pulled off in the last race, as well as any races, for a few races in front, like the one in Baku, for example, yeah, if there's no Checo fighting Hamilton on the first one, Hamilton wouldn't have hit the magic and then go straight all the way down to the tunnel, you know. And then he got,
Yeah.
I think he got 15th place, instead of the second place. If he didn't,
Yep.
fought Hamilton for it, that would have resulted in a Hamilton 8 world champion already. So a lot of things
Yes.
that go in favor of Hamilton, and a lot of things that go in favor of Max Verstappen. But I think that's the beauty of it lah. We have all this luck that comes into play whenever you're in a sport. Much like
Yes.
football, like if you ever watch football, it's also sometimes very much
True.
form dependent, luck dependent. You could hit the woodwork for 20 times and not get a goal,
Yeah, but for me, right, football is like a 4-year one-time thing. Every time there's a World Cup, only I will get involved in football again, like just to watch the competitions. But I don't know, like, do you watch football?
Yeah. I'm a big Arsenal fan. Very
I
big
see.
Arsenal fan.
So do you have the same kind of passion towards football as F1? Like, do you keep track of what happens to the team when it's not competing? Like for us, right, F1 actually off the track, right? There's a lot of drama, a lot of news, a lot of things that keep you hooked onto F1. So even when they're not racing, you are actually very involved in like what's going on with the team, what's going on with the drivers. So is it the same for you in Arsenal? Like, do you keep track of like what's happening with the individual players or the managers or that?
Yeah, I do. I started supporting Arsenal when I was I think it was the 2010 World Cup. I think that is when the time everyone, like, in the high school, everyone got hooked up to like football. Everyone's following it, and that's when I started to, after the World Cup, I started to follow some of the big clubs lah, yeah. And I supported Arsenal because when you play some of the PES or the FIFA, if you ever played, Arsenal will be the first club on top because it starts with the alphabetical A,
Okay.
I was like, okay, that's a very, very good team. I play with it and it's a very good team. Let's just support the team lah. And after that, I learned more about the rich history that Arsenal has, and I started supporting, all the way through the we call it the banter era lah, where all the very weird result, nearly champion but not champion, all the fourth place in the league, all the way until now 2021. We haven't gone back to our glory days yet, but I think we're making progress towards it lah. The leading indicators do indicate that we're in a very good position. But the lagging indicator is like the position of Arsenal in the league table may not be that nice to look at lah. Currently, I think we're fifth. But if we win all the matches, it's a very, very, you can ever be very hopeful lah. But if we ever win all the matches, we'll go back to fourth place lah, which is, I think, top 4 is the most important thing, at least in the English Premier League.
I see. So how long is the English, like a F1 season is the entire year basically? So how long is a F1 is a football season? Same thing.
Same thing. So it depends on the league. So let's use the Premier League for example. So there's 20 teams. So each team will face off with another team home and away. So you will face each team 2 times a year. So that's around, if you add it up, one team will have to play 38 matches throughout the season. So the season will run from August all the way to May. And then some weeks you have one match, some weeks you have two matches, and you just go on and on lah. And then you that's the domestic competition. You also have the European competition, for example, like the Champions League. That's when you have all the big clubs like I can't say Arsenal is not playing the Champions League, but let's say the big clubs nowadays like Manchester City, Liverpool, they play against the other ones like Barcelona, Real Madrid, those kind of teams. Not that Barcelona is in the Champions League this year. I think they've fallen from grace already.
Oh, then is it like by elimination or like also okay, so it's it goes down to the last two and they fight.
Yes, that's for the cup, but if for the 38 matches I told you about, that will be a
It's the
league lah.
points. Okay.
It's the point. Yes.
I see. Okay, so then so it depends on the points is basically how many goals you score. Is it like added up how many goals you score?
Oh. A win in a match will grant you 3 points. A draw will grant each team 1 point. If you lose, it's 0 point lah. So whoever has most points, goals and assists, goals and for and against doesn't matter, unless you're tied on points with a certain team. Then I think the goal difference would then be the deciding factor. Whoever has the biggest, goals, for entertainment purposes.
Not like a flip coin or anything lah.
No. Flip coin, I think it's the last resort. If like you're tied on goals for and against, you're tied on head to head, you're tied on even the number of yellow card or red card. Yeah, then flip coin I think is the last resort already. I can't remember.
Has that ever happened before? Flip coin?
No, I don't think so. It's just very unlikely to happen. Like down to the 0.0000%. Very small.
Right. I see. So okay, then so then I have had two F1 and football fans on the podcast 2 in a row. You and Vinod. Vinod is also F1 boy, but I'm not sure if you saw during the podcast he was wearing the Mercedes shirt.
I saw the Petronas, but I didn't really notice what was the other logo. Couldn't really see it.
It was an F1 Mercedes. So we started the podcast. He was. I was wearing another shirt actually. I think I was wearing this shirt or something. Then I saw he was wearing the Mercedes shirt, and I was like, "Bro, what is this shirt?" He said, "You want to talk about F1, right?" Then I said, "Okay. I'm going to change my shirt. Change to my Max Verstappen World Champion shirt."
Nice. Hey, have you? Are you ever interested in like Formula One diecast? Like you have all those display sets of the car they make.
Oh yes, I actually am. But it's quite expensive, right? The diecast F1 cars.
Yeah, I think like what's the company that makes it? Sparks model or something? Sparks. I think for one it's like 200 euros. If you get the big one. If you get the small one, I think it's like 100 or 60 euros. Can't remember. It's like running up to the hundreds lah. In ringgit, it's like hundreds and thousands already lah.
I see. Okay, but it's diecast, so it's just a solid model that doesn't move. So how big is it actually? Like it's the size of a phone.
It depends. So if you have the small one, it's like 143. Probably look like this. 143. That's the top. Okay. This big. But if it's like what's the other size? 118. Yeah, 118. It's like this big.
Ooh.
118.
Okay. And that's definitely like maybe into the thousands already.
Yeah, definitely. If you're counting by ringgit, definitely into the thousands already. A lot of money to spend lah, but
actually,
I don't think we'll go there.
My girlfriend like she really wants the Lego Technic, the McLaren. You saw? I'm sure you saw.
I think I saw it. I think I did.
Yeah, it's like I think it's the 2021 car, but it's a Lego Technic, so it has suspension. It has suspension. It can roll. I don't think it moves but it's actually very big. If you just see the pictures, right, there's no context. But there was a video of Daniel and Lando playing with it, and then it's actually like it's wider than their hips. It's wider than when they stand in front of it, right? It's wider than their hips, so it's actually very big. The F1 car. So
I can see the picture now.
Yeah, nice, right? Yeah, but and I don't know if it's even for sale, but I told her like, where would we even put it? Like in our room, we got no space to put it now. So like, what they said, 我想要. They said, think about it. I mean, 如果你要的话, okay, 你去买, but think about where we're gonna put it. Then we have no place to put it in the room actually.
What? How much is one? I say like I know Legos can run up to like a model like that. I think will be 2,000.
Let me see. Lego Technic. I'm not sure if Lego Technic McLaren F1 car. Let's see. I don't know. Price. No, it's 179 or not 179 US dollars. Not super expensive.
179. Oh, wow. Pretty,
Quite
pretty,
okay.
pretty awesome deal, huh?
Yeah, 1,432 pieces.
Okay, okay. That looks like a very good deal. Hey, don't
Sounds
know lah. What
reasonable.
maybe one more day when you look at your fiance and she's going out on a very rainy day, maybe you can get this next time lah instead of the watch that you got. Maybe you can get that next time. The wish list item that she has.
I only have one response to that, which is thank you for listening to my podcast, bro. Thanks so much,
No
bro.
worries, bro.
This
I'm a
is like
silent listener.
this is like the best. Like I look forward to the days when people will give me like these inside jokes, right? Only jokes that people listen to the podcast with know. Like this
Yeah, I
is
got you, bro.
so nice, man. So nice. I mean, that's okay. We can talk about the podcast a bit lah. Like I'm actually like super grateful to people that listen. Like even if you listen for 5-6 minutes or you listen to the clips on Instagram, right? I'm super grateful because I feel like this is the first time I've actually taken a creative outlet in a way. Not I've taken it seriously lah. I used to have like a vlog or something. I have a YouTube channel called Just Don't Know, but those were like not really. I wasn't really focused on it. But now this podcast, I want to take it very seriously. I want to do it at least 2 episodes a month. This is so far I've been doing okay. I've been doing 1 episode per week. The amount of podcasts I have, so it's almost 1 episode per week. I hope I can continue this until the end of the year, but I think I might go back to Kuching, and when I'm there, probably very hard to do this podcast and stuff. But so it's very nice to see when thank you to anyone also that's listening at this point also supporting the podcast. I feel like podcasts are taking off in the Western countries. People almost like everyone has a podcast, but it's still not super popular here. And even if people have podcasts here, it's not really very serious kind of tone in the podcast. Like right now, we are relaxed, we are chilling, but we're not really joking. But I feel like Malaysian content that's produced in Malaysia, there's not really a serious tone to it. A lot of things is like comedy based, just doing funny things, pranks or stuff like that. And I hope that there is a market for this kind of content, which is like just 2 people chilling, talking. You can play this in the background, or if you are free, just sit down and listen to it, watch it. You don't have to watch the video also. But I feel like there is probably because it's kind of like the new generation of radio. You know how olden days people would just leave the radio on and just listen to the radio. There was no TV or anything. I think like podcast is just first of all, Jordan Peterson. You know Jordan Peterson?
No. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those that listen to Western podcasts a lot lah.
I see.
Mostly what I listen to is more like the financial realm, the likes of like Dave Ramsey, or even people like in Malaysia. I think there's like I like to listen to Yi Heng as well. He talks about real estate.
I see.
Things like sometimes like Mr. Money. When most of the podcasts I listen to is related to financials lah. So not on the comedy or on the what's happening in the world kind of podcast lah. But
I see.
bringing back to what you mentioned, I just want to applaud you as well for taking sort of a leap of faith, venturing into this. I think a lot of us have always had this thought like, look, we want to venture into something new, but we don't take the first initial step, because that first initial step is always the most painful. And you've gotten that barrier already, and now you're just keep progressing on. I think that's something that's very much applaudable, and I commend you as well for taking it seriously. That means that you have a lot of respect towards your guests who are coming onto the show, and I really thank you for that as well lah. Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, what I'm doing is I said like you can deny it, but I'm inviting interesting people that I find motivated individuals around our age. Right now, the only reason why I have people around our age is because I'm closest with you guys lah. Like I know you people best, but hopefully, like in the future, I can invite more popular. Like Jenny L was an anomaly lah. She was really an anomaly. I didn't. You probably heard the podcast lah. Like I never expected. She had a Q&A. I asked her like, "Hey, would you like to join my podcast?" And she replied. She follows me on Instagram as well. What? I cannot even comprehend it. Like everything was super fast. She replied my email. She said, oh, "Cool. Can you do tomorrow?" And I was like, okay. And then I prepared like all the notes and everything what I need to ask her. And then ended up we didn't even talk about watches that much. Like just super chill, super nice. She's really. Some people say don't meet the people you like just be fans. Don't meet them in person or don't interact with them, right? Because you might be disappointed. She's not one of those people. She's like, she really meets the expectations of a super nice, super sweet person. That's so cute and so interesting also. So yeah, she was an anomaly. I was going like, slowly I will like cover my circle of friends first. Hopefully we can talk about some interesting things. Then hopefully I can invite 1 or 2 Malaysian 那种小红人 or something, like maybe they have like 5,000-6,000 followers, more and more popular people, and hopefully move up the ladder to relatively small celebrities in Malaysia or big celebrities, and and then we can talk about casual stuff, and if the podcast gets some traction, the podcast can make some money, then I can rent instead of renting a room where I cannot invite people to come over to podcast in person, then I can rent a 1-room, 2-room condo apartment. Then I can have 1 room that is for me to have my podcast with my guests. That's the plan.
I can see that you have a very, very good plan laid out. Now it's a matter of executing it, like.
Yeah, that's the plan. 2020. So like hopefully, if my guests listen and they like it, then they let their friends hear stuff like that. Then I can see there's some traction now. There's small tractions, like the friends of my podcast guests, they will listen. Like Vinod last week also, some friend of his that I don't think I know who he is also. He just commented on my video, said nice podcast, everything. So it's these small things, right, that come from these. Right now it's circle of friends, but as soon as I start breaking outside of my circle of friends, that's when I know, okay, it has more traction. Of course, like I told Jen, I don't know if this was in my video, but like I told Jenny, basically I want to try to. It's nice to have this podcast. It's a creative outlet, but of course the end goal, right, to make it sound like really blunt, is hopefully this podcast can make money. And if it really makes a lot of money, I can become like the Joe Rogan of Asia, like that, right? then of course I would love to quit my job and do this full time. This would be super nice. But so at that point, then I can invest more in this podcasting, get a space, set up the background. I don't need to use kind of virtual background. Hopefully, in 2 years' time, I can actually have a background that looks like this, not a virtual background. Slowly, ramp up the popularity. But I think. Yeah, this was something that was really scary for me actually to start a podcast, because I've always liked recording myself, but doing this, letting my thoughts be heard by public, right? It's a first time for me. So yeah, thanks for accompanying me. It was actually very scary.
No, maybe you've inspired me to start some writing as well. I've always been interested in writing things and sharing my thoughts. Maybe you've inspired me to post it on somewhere lah. Maybe not Facebook. Seeing the direction it's heading towards, maybe finding some new avenue to share, getting into all these creative outlets lah, and see how I can share my thoughts as well.
Actually, one thing I think that's like for someone our age nowadays, right? If you want, right, you can build your own website, your own johnnywong.me or something. I think that would be a nice creative outlet. So I'm not sure if you've been to my portfolio, justinchang.me. If you have your computer in front of you, justinchang.me.
I think I saw your pictures with a lot of different podcasts, right? Is it?
Yes.
Is it that one?
Yeah. So actually on that page, if you go justinchang.me, there's another page that I never exposed. It's called blogs. So that's where I write my blog related things. Have
you written anything on there yet?
There's like 4 articles on there now, but it's like not very, because writing is not really my strong suit. I cannot write as well as I speak, let's say like that. So I prefer to speak, and I think that's where I can really express myself better. Writing is not really my strong point. Maybe for you. So actually, if you want, right, you can build a small little website, and then you can manage the content. So you don't have to. It's like actually a lot like Blogger, I'm sure you know Blogger. Yeah. So then I think that's where you can do it, or maybe Medium. Actually, if you write good articles, you can actually make money from Medium as well.
Need to find the sort of the prioritization. It talks about prioritization. It's not about not having enough time. It's about whether or not I would like to prioritize this piece of work compared to what I'm doing nowadays. A lot of people identify themselves by the work that they do, and it's very unfortunate that is the case. We gotta build our own identity. What's your character? You can't be defined. I find myself sometimes getting defined by what do I do and what's my job. But you gotta be someone that you really want to be, and where your passion and more importantly meaning lies, rather than just passion itself. What's your purpose and what's your meaning? So I can see that you have a very clear vision. I'm very glad that I see that in you. So very happy for you, bro. I'm happy to help you in your success and also share in your success later,
Hey, no problem, man. No problem, man. I'm grateful to anyone that actually would be even willing to jump on this podcast. It's scary for me to put my voice out there, host this podcast and everything. But it's actually scary for my guests as well. Is this your first ever podcast or first time having yourself recorded and put online, things like that?
Not the first time in terms of putting myself online, but in terms of podcast, yes, this is my first time. So it's a bit of a daunting thing for me as well.
Right.
What are I think you guys shared before the previous podcast as well, maybe, these things will come and bite me back 30 years down the line, how the context, how humans view certain things has changed so much that, the current view that we express today, it's very, very wrong compared to the moralities that is expressed 30 years later.
Yes.
Sometimes I get that, but, life is too short to worry about these things.
Yes. Actually, that's something that's very unfortunate, I think, happening to a lot of comedians nowadays. Yes, the jokes that they made in the past were inappropriate, but they were probably not inappropriate at the time, right? They felt like, okay, that was just that's the context. Actually, that word is used so much, right, that people forget about it. That the context really matters. I think all of the comedians out there are not out to harm people or to intentionally hurt people that they joke about, and also you cannot just take out snippets of what we say and not we lah. I'm not a comedian, but what they say and make it sound like they are evil, they are cruel, things like that. It's very sad for them, and also very dangerous.
Yeah, reflecting on that, thinking about how, in the 1700s or even in the 1400s, in England, for example, witchcraft, which is the thing, people believe in it. They were laughing at the guy who was washing his hand because he thinks that there's I guess his studies indicate that there's very small beings living on his hand. That's why it's very important to wash your hand. And people were laughing about it until someone cracks the well and then find out that there's cholera. So even today, the thing about it really depends on what the society is thinking. It's like we have a herd mentality lah. Whatever people is doing, we also want to do. Like scientists has been talking about. I'm not sure whether you would watch the new movie. Don't Look. I think it's Don't Look Up.
Yep. I didn't watch finish. I watched a bit in the beginning, but I got caught up in other things.
It really tells the story of how not the story but how scientists are facing difficulties nowadays lah. Especially related to those of climate change. They're trying to advocate that we gotta do energy transition. We gotta cut out things. But society as a whole, we're still debating. 30 years of the line, we're still debating whether or not climate change is a real thing. And I think that's really sad lah. People 200, 300 years down the line, they'll be looking at us. Look at these funny people, just like those in the 1700s, believing that washing hand is a bad thing. And us, people will look at us and look at especially our plastic, where we just use and dispose. It is, I think, something that's not going to be a positive light on this 21st century people lah.
Yeah. I think you are right. Definitely, like if you zoom out and look at it in that sense, right? We definitely, if you think about it, we're actually doing a lot of things that will seem weird to people in the future. I think, actually no. In some sense, right? In some ways, in a very, very, very small groups, it seems like we are going backwards. I'm not sure if you saw recently, there's a video of a pastor in the US calling out the three ladies in the audience, or 3 or 4 ladies in the audience, saying, I know you are witches. We know you are witches. So you better leave now before I get this entire audience to attack you. Tell people who you are. I know you are the witch. I know you are really a witch. Which kind of resonates with what you just said, that 300-400 years ago we were laughing at people, we were witchcraft and everything was a thing, but it seems like now there is this fanaticism in very small groups. But you know what's the scary thing about that video? I'm sure after this, if I can find it, I'll share with you. So there's this pastor or whoever guy on the stage mocking or poking at whoever he thinks are the witches lah. So there's like 3 witches in the audience. He says, I know you are a witch. I know you are the witch. So you better leave right now before I call you out. And then I get the entire mob to attack you. And then the most scary thing, right, is not the fact that he's saying these things, but the fact that the audience is cheering him on. The audience is cheering him on, saying, whoa, yeah, call her out. Where is she? Call her out. And as much as we know that, okay, the general curve of people's education is going up, people are getting educated faster than ever, But there are also these small pockets of people that like to like you say, question whether climate change is real, and then even go back as far as to believe that witches still exist in the world. And it goes like, oh, what if like in a year's time, right, if all these COVID things it's still very messy, right? Don't be very surprised. Don't be surprised if in 5 years we hear some lady was tied up and burned at the stake like a witch from 300 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's very if that ever happens, it's very unfortunate. But I'm sort of also sort of like thinking, it's at least now it feels more like a cult rather than it's the majority. Like back in the day, that was the majority thinking. Rather today, that is a very very small pocket of people that causes outrage, and people, anything that causes outrage will go viral, and that's
Right.
the one that we see lah. Hopefully, that doesn't happen, and a society can put the majority of people, right-minded people lah. Not sure who goes and define who has the right mind. Yeah, morality is very dependent. So put it in its place lah. That doesn't happen.
Yes, I think thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, that let it also put into perspective for me. Yeah, you're right. At the time, it was a norm. Like, oh, a lot of people, like mobs, huge mobs of people will gather behind this idea that we have witches among us. But now it's a small minority of people, and the fact that after that video got out, right, it was mostly outrage. People were outraged by this pastor, and so I think the fact that there is outrage is a good sign that we have more right-minded people rather than not right-minded people.
Yeah, definitely. If only good news, very positive news is given the same treatment, like, yeah. Good news causes outrage. What a society we'll be living in. Justin Chan is starting a new podcast. Outrage.
What the hell does he have to say?
Viral.
Shut up, lah. Shut up. What does he have to say? A lot of times.
Don't say that about, yeah.
No, I'm joking, lah. But yeah, actually, like you say, lah. I'm also I think I have views that may not be, accepted. Not accepted, like, it's definitely accepted.
Tell me about a very controversial view that you have. Let's try to look at it.
Controversial views that I have.
We can cut this out if there's anything too controversial, like, yeah.
Let me think. Okay, I feel very strongly towards pedophiles. I really don't like people that harm children. As you can see from my Instagram, and you can see you can see my Instagram, and people that know me know that I really like dogs and also children. That sounds weird for a guy in his 20s to say I like children, but I really enjoy the company of children, and I like children. I feel like they're very cute and very innocent, and just like dogs, actually, they are so innocent, and that's why I like them so much. You cannot really tell a dog to tell you a lie, and also you cannot tell a kid to tell you a lie. So I have a very strong view towards pedophiles, so people that harm children sexually or physically, in that sense, in any way, right? So one of the controversial views, I think, is if you are caught and proven to be a pedophile, you should be chemically castrated. I feel like that's a view that a lot of people. I just saw this argument a few days ago on Reddit. Somebody said that first of all, why they don't agree with this is because the justice system is not infallible. The justice system is not perfect, and so innocent people might get caught up in this and innocently get chemically castrated or whatever. But also, and I agree, yes, there could be innocent people that get caught up in this, but also I feel like it's not that hard to mistake a pedophile. It's not easy to mistake a pedophile. I should say that it's not easy to mistake a pedophile. So a pedophile, what they are doing is they probably have naked pictures of children, or they are caught, exposing their genitals to children, things like that. And in that case, right, I like to go to the extreme in that sense and say that these people, if they can change, good, but. It's actually like a sexual kink, right? It's a sexual kink. Like, okay, straight people usually, okay, I like the opposite sex, and then gay people or lesbians will like someone of the same sex, and that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. But then you have people that say, there are people that argue that pedophilia is just another kind of kink, that you like children instead of liking. Hey, my girlfriend's behind. You like children instead of liking a person of your age, of the opposite sex, or the person of your age, the same sex, you like children, and there's nothing wrong with that. I cannot get behind that idea. I cannot get behind the idea that
Oh.
pedophilia is just another type of sexual preference. No, that's wrong to me. I feel like if it's a child, okay, you can argue that okay, if 18 years old is the legal age, then 17 years old is not pedophilia. I feel like okay, that's a bit of a gray area. Also, it's still underage. You will still go to jail, but I can understand that argument a bit. But if you tell me that you're like a 10-year-old girl or 10-year-old boy, I cannot. You cannot tell me that's a sexual preference. So that's one of the strong arguments I have. So I've always said to my girlfriend before, like if I get into power, right, if I get into a position of power where I'm like a prime minister or something, right, I will be very hard on these people. I will not tolerate. I mean, personally, fortunately, touch wood, I was not sexually abused or anything when I was young by anyone, any adult or anything. But I just feel, I don't know, this very strong feeling towards pedophiles. I feel like that's one of the controversial thoughts I have, where if you are caught and proven to be a pedophile, by trial, and proven without a doubt that you are a pedophile, right, you should be basically castrated. I don't know, man. That's one of the controversial things. This could be problematic in 30 years, but I don't care, man. I'm fine.
Well, I guess the level of punishment really depends. I mean, it is not controversial that we all agree that pedophiles are really terrible people. I think that's really a consensus among everyone.
Cool.
But in terms of like the level of punishment, it really depends on the culture and what kind of things that you believe in. Some people, like some countries, they go for what a rehabilitation. Try to make them into people of use to society rather than locking them up so that they do not contribute further and they just die away. When they come out, they're practically just, it's like more or less like a death sentence for them already lah. Chemical castration, I guess it really depends. I can't say anything. If they are able to be determined without, again, like you mentioned, without any reasonable doubt, then I see no issue going towards that direction as a form of punishment. But if let's say how imperfect the system is, I do recognize that perspective as well, that people might suffer from this as well. But you cannot, like, even if you lock people up, they also suffer from the same thing. People wrongly convicted, locked up for 28 years for a crime that they did not commit at all. Isn't that the same mental torture that you put on people? I would argue that the mental toll that it has on someone is even greater than compared to a physical toll. Like, you lose your ability to
reproduce.
Basically you're castrated lah, basically. So yeah, really, I have no comments on further on this particular point. But
looks like it was controversial enough, huh?
Controversial a bit. A very unpopular opinion. The very unpopular opinion. Unpopular opinion. Tradition is peer pressure from dad. That is a unpopular opinion. Like tradition, the things you have to do, the things you have to do from your ancestors. It is a peer pressure.
From the
them
dead,
giving you pressure from the dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it like, oh, that sounds about right. The things we have to do today is because our ancestors before us did it before, and they ask me, if they don't do it, then it's peer pressure.
Yeah. I think that's something very common in Asian countries lah. Chinese, Indian, Malays, we all have our traditions and we take them very seriously. But I feel like I don't know about you. I don't know if you're super religious. I'm not super religious, but I feel like our generation and definitely the generation after us, right? We will there will be some dilution of religious mindsets. I feel like a lot of people are nowadays I mean, it's not to say that I don't believe in God. I in that sense, I think I'm not an atheist, but also I don't, I'm a Buddhist, but I don't go to the temple often. I only go when I'm told to go, and I don't want to lose the identity as saying I'm a Buddhist. But maybe the way in terms of practicing, I'm not really a Buddhist, but I identify as a Buddhist, and so maybe when I have kids in the future, I think I will grow up culturally Chinese or Buddhist, but it's up to them actually at the end of the day. Like, oh, you feel like Christianity is good for you, great. If you like Buddhism, great. You like Islam, great. You don't think that any of this is real, up to you, man. I think as long as you know yourself that you are a good person, you don't need a religion to tell you to be a good person. If you need a religion to tell you to be a good person, right, then any religion also won't be able to tell you you're a good person. If you need that convincing, you should be a good person even without religion, right? Any religion.
Yeah, I resonate with what you've mentioned just now about religion does not dictate how you behave. I
Mm,
think religions, what they teach you is in general, like, yeah. I'm not saying about all the cults, like, yeah. So
mm,
religions, they teach you how to be a good person, and I think that is great. But that you should not let it define you. That your actions is defined by a, let's say a book, like, yeah, telling you what to do and what not.
yeah,
So really, it really comes from within. You gotta do the right thing. Again, back to the point that morality, it differs from one person to another. But so long as you feel like you're doing the right thing, you don't cause harm, you do no harm to people, you respect one another. I think that the world will be a much safer and a much peaceful place lah, compared to where we are now with infightings and whatnot. I think that's unfortunate. And about kids having the ability to explore, I think it's very important for them to discover what they really feel is true, like
mm,
um, what they believe in. If they want to believe in a certain thing, go ahead. No right or wrong thing, unless it is something that's like a cult. That's a very different story lah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
really,
Like
yeah,
that.
I resonate with your points. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there are some things that are obviously wrong, and then there are some things that I cannot say are wrong or correct. Like if you tell me, if my kid comes up to me and say, "Oh, Dad, I want to try cocaine today," I'll be like, I cannot say, "Oh, well, I cannot say,
Go
hey,
to US. Go to US.
I cannot tell my kid, hey, okay, you do whatever you like. You try. If you want to try, you can just go try. I mean, some things are obviously wrong, right?
Mhm.
But some things like it's a gray area. Like I'm not super sure myself. Then I cannot.
Mm.
I will tell my kid, just be careful. Don't go too crazy about it. Addiction is real. You can get addicted to anything, basically. And which is true. You can be addicted to anything. Work also, you can be addicted to work, and it can be unhealthy as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. We have already gone 1 hour and 20 minutes, about 15 minutes, 1 hour, 15 minutes like that. Uh,
Yeah.
不知不觉. Do you want to continue? I don't mind continuing, but I will probably need to jump off in another 20 minutes like that. Otherwise, we can continue talking about
Sure, sure.
anything.
Unless, no. If you do, you have any specific topic in mind you want to talk about?
I was thinking about I was actually there was something I want to talk about work. So in your workplace, right? Just now you mentioned something to me about the fact that I am willing to admit I'm wrong when I have the data in front of me, right? Proven that my thoughts and my assumptions were wrong. The data has proven me to be correct. Have you ever met someone? I'm asking this because I have met people like this. Have you ever met someone that their ego determines what they say, what they do, more than whatever data they have in front of them. So I've met people before that are they are usually in a position that's more senior than me. It may be senior by 10 years, it may be senior by 1 year, but they have this kind of feeling that whatever they say is correct, even though when they are wrong. So they are actually it's similar to what I mentioned in Vinod's podcast also. It's like the people that have this false confidence in themselves and this ability to make whatever they say sound like they are correct, right? I think like these people are
Right,
actually
right.
very, very scary. And I feel like we have a lot of these kind of people in the workplace. I'm just thinking like, have you ever met these kind of people before?
Um, very fortunate. I think very fortunate. I can't say like I think I'm in a very privileged position where in our company I have not experienced any sort of kind of like this kind of negative things in a company lah. If you
Mm,
like saying like the manager has a big ego, I don't think no. When like people getting frustrated, of course, definitely a bit. But if you're saying
mm,
like people shouting, people being angry, or people straight up, sort of like don't look at that person as a person. I don't think that has happened. I have at least I not that I've seen it. Like, I've been in the company for 2 years. I've not seen it. The culture here has been very good. Like it's a very open and trustful workplace.
mm.
I can tell you that I've made some mistakes as well in the work. I don't. I think who never has made mistakes in their work before. I think the
Okay.
important thing is like what I mentioned earlier, like accept that you've made the mistake, learn from it, how you can improve, and just move on from it, lah. It's a
Mm,
learning for everyone. I think
right.
there was a sharing from one of my colleagues before. In their first 1 year in the job, they that person she I think she worked in Australia at that time, like, yeah. So she
Mm-hmm.
was one of the lab technicians over there, like not only that, like the we call them like production chemistry, like that was in the lab. So when she was doing the test, she actually caused an explosion. So there was fire, and
Okay.
Being Xiao, we are very stringent on safety. You gotta follow procedure, and she was scared that as a graduate she'll lose a job because it has a reputation impact. You cause a fire. There's safety
Mm.
aspect to it. There's monetary aspect to it. But at the end of the day, her managers told her, look, learn from your mistake and move on from it. And now today, from her experience, I think like 10, 15 years or 20 years down the line, she's now general manager of
Wow.
a certain position. So in general manager is actually a quite high position here in Shell.
Okay.
So that it doesn't matter. So the most important thing is you own up to the mistake, you openly share it, so people don't repeat the same thing. It's the behavior that we all want to see lah.
Right.
So I think by your sharing you would have had a different experience compared to mine. You would have a very not so great work culture, I guess, and people that
No.
you've met.
So right now the company I work at has a great work culture, and also the first company I worked at, Intel, had a great work culture, very similar to what the experience you have. I think it's just because of the scale of the company. So Intel, Shell, very big companies. They have very established HR teams. They have very established management training courses, programs for their managers and things like that. So the way they handle issues is definitely a lot more mature and a lot more systematic than small companies. So after I went
Correct.
from Micron, my second company was Micron. Micron is not a small company, but at Micron it wasn't really a management problem. But that was really the first time I came across people that were They like to be they cannot have a conversation where they shut up. Like today, right? If I sit with you and I sit with Vinod, right, and you guys talk about football, I will sit back, I will shut up and just listen because I have nothing to contribute to football, and I will only ask questions. Like, hey, the other day, Vinod explained to me what offside was, and then you explained to me how the league works, 38 matches throughout the year, all these things, right? I only have questions to ask. I have nothing to, I cannot correct you on it because I know that you know more than me. But then I've come across people that in any conversation you have, they have something to say even though they don't know about it. So for myself, I'm very familiar with web development, very familiar with React, very familiar with all this back-end technology and stuff like that. So when you talk to me about it, right, there is no reason why, especially when I know you know less than me, right? You cannot correct me or be very confident in telling me 没有不是这样子的 and then I have to like either be very nice to you and say 其实是这样子的 I know what I'm talking about, or like if then some people are very stubborn, then you have to be very aggressive to them, say no, this is not the case, what I'm saying is correct, what you're saying is actually is not correct. For example, even my housemate, this guy, when I just came here, and then I realized my internet in the house is very fast, like super fast, and then I said to him one time when he was in the kitchen, I said, 我们的 WiFi 很快不错啊。They said 不会啊，我们 WiFi 不会快啊。我们的 WiFi 才2.4而已。你快的是6 GHz. And I'm like, what? There's no such thing as 6 GHz Wi-Fi. There's only 2.4 and 5 GHz Wi-Fi. Then I said, 你听过6 GHz 吗？ Then I'm like do I correct you or what? Do I just don't waste my time? because he's so confident when he's telling me these things, right? Then I say like 其实我知道2.4跟5啊，我没有听过6啊。Nicely lah, I say. Then he said 没有5的6而已。The fact that he still want to tell me I'm wrong. He knows I work in software. He knows I'm like an IT techie kind of guy. So so it's this kind of people. Like this is just an example. Also the guy I mentioned in Vinod's podcast as well. So I'm sure you've heard of like you and me Sarawakians. We are always very proud of Sarawak. We like to tell people that Sarawak 很和平, all these things. Sarawak people very friendly, all these things, which is true. But I won't go and say ridiculous things about Sarawak, right? I love Sarawak. I wish Sarawak all the best, but I wouldn't say ridiculous things. So he was confidently telling me, this guy is also from Cebu. He told me, 你知道吗？你知道 Sarawak 多少钱给西马吗？我好像是咯，我知道 Sarawak 给很多钱给西马Sarawak 很少钱 we never invest back in ourselves. Okay, fine. This is most Sarawakians can agree on that, right? They say 你知道我们还发电给西马吗？ Then I'm like 请问 Sarawak 怎样发电给西马？ I didn't say lah, but in my mind I'm thinking like how did Sarawak 发电给西马？ Can you explain? They say 拉线啦 under the sea 啦，我们拉线去 Johor 啦。And I'm thinking, wow, Batang I so 厉害啊，we can 拉线 and then we can stretch one big huge cable from Kuching to Johor and then
Yeah.
发电给 sea 嘛。And then he was so confident, right, in the things he say, right, that I doubt myself, like, wow, really 咩 Sarawak 这样厉害咩？可以发电给 West Malaysia? And then when you really look into it, right, there was no such thing even like this. How would you even pull a electric wire from Sarawak to Peninsula and Fatian ke Sima? Oh, how will we even do that right now with the current technology? And when you read about it, okay, there is news about maybe Sarawak Fatian ke West Kalimantan. Okay, West Kalimantan is possible, right? It's in the same island on Borneo, right? Things like that happen. Like Sarawak can generate electricity sufficiently for the whole of Sarawak for sure. But the fact that he said that, oh, Sarawak and Fatian Kesima, and he's so confident in it, So it's examples like this, that people that tell me stories they are so confident in it, right? That I even doubt myself, because that's the thing about you and me, like we will not assume that we are correct right off the bat. If you tell me you are correct, I will assume maybe I'm wrong. I will go and look into it, find out, okay, Chisa, I'm not wrong, or Chisa, there's some gray area there. But this guy I come across too many of these kind of people that confidently tell me something that they don't know to be correct. And they are later proven wrong, but then they find a way to sneak around the fact that, oh, 我不知道吗? Then to me it's like, 你不知道就不要这样子讲, because it is just like a random topic about Sarawak Fatian, but there's other topics about work related things that he doesn't know about, but because he's in a more senior position, automatically I'm wrong in anything he says is correct. And then I will do the things based on what he say, and then maybe waste me 1 or 2 days of work, but only to realize that he was wrong in the first place. And it would be better if I just did it from scratch, because I can understand the thing better by myself. So yeah, I think it's very nice that it's nice to hear that the culture at Shell is a very learning culture. It's a very open-minded culture, and but I've come across people like that, and they cause me a lot of stress. These kind of people,
Right.
False confidence. I think that's how I coin it. If there's a better term, I will use it. But I always find that these people have this false confidence in the things they say, and it actually causes a lot more problems and confusion rather than help out.
Yeah,
man.
There's a behavior we need to drive away, and have that learning sort of mindset be in the new generation. We should be influencing, we don't let us not become seniors that is driving the wrong behavior for our juniors. We have experienced it, and let's not drive it and pass it down to our future generation. I think that's how we stop the wrong sort of culture.
Yes,
and
yes,
people thinking that working more overtime is good, I find that really terrible.
Ooh, yes.
Just
yes.
deliver your work. Don't care about how long you spend on the work. You're effective, you're efficient, you get your work done early, it's up to you,
Yes.
You don't have to sit there 8 to 5 just to prove that you're sitting in front of the computer for your managers to see. That's not a KPI,
Yes,
It's better, deliver your work, for the maybe 10 to 2, and you've done your work already, you just go home lah.
Exactly. So what if I can take a time to really commend my current bosses and also my bosses at Intel, they were all, I think the correct term for it is result based. So it's all result based. So I give you a time, I give you a deadline, I give you a something I want you to complete. You do your best to complete it by that time, and if you hit any problems that I did not foresee, let me know. Then we can push back the date, or we can adjust the task correctly to accommodate for the deadline or things like that. But my previous boss will always he took the number of hours very seriously. So like the fact that you are online at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, or he thinks that's very good, when actually I'm just my Slack is online, but I'm playing games. But the fact that I'm online, or things like that, is the image of looking like you're busy when actually you're not doing anything. And so an argument can be made that why do you still have to work on a Saturday at 10 p.m. Means that you are not effective, you are not efficient. Why couldn't you finish in the 9 to 5, your day to day?
Or it could be workload management. You have too much workload to do. It could be that angle as well. We cannot deny that you have too much workload. And you have that conversation with your manager, I have too much workload, and look how we can try to simplify things, how to improve the processes, things that are non-value adding, some things that like just you have to prepare 1 hour just so that someone can present it for 2 minutes. Why are you even doing that, Just keep the file and just brief it, and then you don't need the pack maybe. So things are things like that we have to remove. And I think
Yes.
you guys play a very big role in it. I mean, I look at as a very environment, very sort of in a sense a very niche and technical area. We always look to you guys as well, people sitting in IT space to help us with
Oh,
solutions. What we can, what kind of technology we can bring in so that we can simplify the complex integrated processes that we have, and try to make it so that it's like a very clear line of sight on where we can improve. I think that's very important. Like you guys play a very critical role. At least I'm not too sure lah, but that's my assumption on the IT guys here at Shell
yeah.
lah.
If I say I play a very critical role, then it sounds like I'm patting myself on the back like that. But I mean, I
No, I
agree
think
that.
sometimes it's to acknowledge yourself.
Yeah,
Not to say that after I tell you about your nose goes up to the ceiling. No, that's not the case. But there's a certain humility and self worth that you need to have lah. That
hey,
competence you need to have.
that's a nice way to put it. That's a nice way to put it. Yeah, I feel like actually I feel that it was a really good choice for me to jump into this web development role. It really opened my eyes to how many things that can be done using these web technologies, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You can make an admin dashboard. You can make a point of sale system. You can make a staff management system. Actually, I can make if you can define to me your problems in a specific enough way, I'm pretty sure I can solve your problem with a web app.
Nice.
I'm quite confident. Like you don't tell me about like statistic or like machine learning. That's like a different skill altogether. But if you're talking about management level things, right? Okay, I need this to track when my employees clock in and clock out. I need to make sure that need to make sure that my inventory is in track, things like that, right? Those kind of tools I can make. I can make sure that okay, it works, and also it could be also. So that's like one of my ideas that I want to try out in 2020. Like if I get my permanent residence in Singapore, I can maybe start a small company, because I find that a lot of companies, they're very small, maybe 10 to 20 people, and they don't need to be paying all these huge amounts of money to use this Salesforce, all these very expensive tools that they actually only use 10% of the tool only. They don't need all the rest of the features. They only need a very small set of tools that doesn't need to cost so much, and they don't need to pay on a subscription based plan. So I can go up to your small company, ask you what are the basic tools that you need. I can make a tool for you, a one-time payment, and that's basically yeah.
That's pretty good. It's no, honestly having this conversation, if that opens up the channel for me. If I need sort of advice from external parties, right, how to improve a certain processes, I don't get the usual shell. You're so much in your own bubble that you have a certain way of doing things. And I could even go to you in the future. Like this is a very good professional relationship as well. Like, hey Justin, I have this problem. They recommended me to use Power Apps to do it myself and deliver an app and solve my problem, and using Power Automate or Flow to link things up together. So,
Right.
what do you suggest? What do you have a better one in mind that could also deliver the same intent but in a faster and more efficient way? I think that's a very good channel that we're creating over here, and also
Right,
the
right.
thought that you have in mind to have this solution like. I think most of companies will use Salesforce, we use SAP, all these systems, and like you mentioned, sometimes we just use the bare surface of it and not using the full functionality. I think
And
that's a very good market you're aiming for.
yeah,
I, I, I I'm cognizant of the time over here. I think you
oh,
you need to
oh,
hop off already, right?
oh no, we can do another. We can finish this chat about like these little things. Yeah, these little features. Like yeah, actually those small features that you mentioned, right? They're actually not very complex or complicated systems, and not hard to maintain as well. And it's not the kind of thing that occasionally needs updating or occasionally needs support. I feel like in the previous companies I worked at, the amount of effort spent on support, right, was I don't know, just like it was like diminishing returns lah. So I feel like if I can make a tool that requires minimal human interaction, so you don't need me to come in every other day as your IT guy and say, oh, 这个有 bug 那个有 bug. Make it as simple and as bare bones as possible, just enough for you to use. Actually, that's what most people need only. Most companies need that. They don't need all the. I mean, as the company scales, yes, then maybe my tool will not be sufficient anymore. But that's where my tool is beneficial, because it's a one-time payment thing. It serves your needs, and it's not like subscription based. Like the problem with like a lot of software nowadays, right? Like Adobe Creative Cloud or Salesforce, it's subscription based and it's per user based. And I feel like I feel like a lot of the companies don't want that and don't want to spend the expense on to do that. Especially when you're just starting out, when it's just like 10 people. That's a very, very big cost for such a small company. So I feel like actually, as you scale up and you get to 50 people, you need some better system. Then you can go for those kind of more expensive plans. But otherwise, I think I can make something that you can use in a week or 2 weeks. I can make something that you can use.
Yeah, I'll be checking up on you. So have you made the commitment yet? You have a very good plan. So what's your commitment towards it?
Okay.
Are you going to commit yourself to deliver this?
I've said a lot of things that I need to do in 2020. Number one is this podcast I want to maintain. This is the first commitment for 2020. Number two is the gym. I need to build up these guns, okay? Get more healthy in 2022. Read more books in 2022. I want to read at least one book per month. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I want to read one book per month for 2022. And the side things, right? Side things are this business thing that I talk about. That one depends on whether I get my PR. If I get my PR, permanent resident in Singapore, then I can start planning out these things. Because right now, as I'm not a PR, I can only do the software, but I cannot do any selling of it because I shouldn't be making any other income besides my main source of income. I shouldn't be making any side hustle in Singapore. So once I get my permanent residence, then I can consider, starting up a small company. It's very cheap to start a company in Singapore. If I'm not wrong, it's $1 to start a company just to get the title of the company.
All right.
And small things like that. I feel like that's another thing. I just spoke to my brother Darren a few days ago. I told him I want to learn the guitar. That one, still renting a room and no real privacy. I think it might be annoying my landlady if I take up the guitar. Maybe that one I can postpone to 2023. But yeah, I feel like 2021 was a good year. I want to keep up the momentum 2022. So I'm always in this state of mind where normal for humans to just be demotivated for a while, but also I have to catch myself and bring myself back up to speed. So that's why I keep on inviting driven, interesting individuals like yourself, Mr. Johnny Wong, to keep myself on my toes, to make sure that I have conversations with interesting people and realize that people are doing a lot more in their lives, and I need to first of all kind of like absorb their positivity, but at the same time I want to release positivity. Sounds like such a cliche word, sounds like something that sounds like a meme your mother would send you. Hey, good morning, son, be happy today. It's kind of like forced positivity, right? But I feel like a lot of people just need that now. COVID, everything, a lot of people are down in the dumps. So it's nice to be kind of this happy guy. Tell people to don't be so down.
Yeah, I think it's very much important that you reflect a bit. I see you have a lot of plans. It's good to reflect a bit sometimes, like where you are. Just take a stop. I feel like you have all these things lined up what you want to do this year. I just have maybe some pit stops along the way so that you can really assess where you are currently and see whether you are heading towards the right direction.
Right.
Yeah, good to hear from you. And happy to have this conversation in the future. Maybe when you have 10,000 subscribers, then I will come back again. Yeah, for round two. Yeah.
Okay, so like I'm sure you heard this in the previous podcast as well. Like so I would like to book you for around the same time next year if you are okay with it, just to keep myself committed to the podcast plan. So like I hope around I'll set a calendar for myself that around maybe 15th or maybe around January next year, I'll start to ask you again, hey, are you free for another podcast? Maybe not even next year, maybe in another 6 months, you can come back on again. We can have a live update again. So like, what do you think about that? Like in a year's time, would you be interested to join again?
Yeah, definitely. And I'll see where you have, whether the commitments you have made in this podcast. I will definitely have to replay it to remind myself. But definitely I will have to look whether or not you have buffed up. Remember, diet is also very important, yeah. Not only gym, yeah.
I know. I was going to the gym, but I don't want to take protein and stuff like that, right? Then there was no results. But as soon as I start taking protein, and I also started taking some creatine as well. Oh, quite obvious. The results quite obvious. I mean, you cannot see now. It's also there's nothing to show here as well. But yeah, slowly. I hope that by the end of the year, I have a target weight that I want to reach. But all with muscle mass, not with fat. So with muscle mass, hopefully I can reach got 67 or 66 like that. That would
very
be nice.
Ambitious, but all right, awesome. No, all muscle mass and no fat. Yeah, wow, fantastic.
I mean, traditionally, you know me, like I'm very skinny, low fat. Yeah, my what?
How's your calorie intake?
I don't
Do you
calculate
do?
down to that.
Ooh, bro.
You have to. I should. I should.
You should do some calorie counting and just to know like how much weight you're trying to gain, because if at the end of the day, right, I mean it's all science, right?
Yes.
If you hit a certain calorie, you just like sustaining, then you won't grow any muscle at all, so try to eat more, like 200 300 calories a day more than your daily requirement. Then then you will start to build on muscle together with fat lah, huh?
Okay.
Just to set the expectation together with fat lah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Hopefully, in a year's time, you see me. Also, like, you just be prepared, like maybe like on Instagram, like how I'm very vocal about my podcast, right, on Instagram because I keep
Mhm.
talking about it. I may also start posting pictures of my gym progress just to keep myself. Keep also that kind of reverse mindset where I post about it, so I'm accountable to it, like so people will ask me, like when I posted about the podcast in December last year, and then people will ask me like, hey, where's your podcast? Then I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I have to do that because I said I would do it. And so it's already been 1.5 months that I've been doing podcasts, surprisingly so fast already. In another 10 days February will be gone already. uh
Mm.
1/6 of 2022 is over. Amazing how time flies, man. COVID-19
Really,
COVID-19 can go to kindergarten already, right? I said that to be not.
really. Yeah, maybe like on your podcast, one thing that I think as a listener lah,
Yep.
maybe I can like one thing that maybe could help is like for the videos, right? You can have like, I think YouTube there's a way to section your video into different questions. Yeah,
Okay.
I think you can put the effort, like in this section we were talking about what, that section we were talking about, and then put a timestamp on it so people might listen to parts that relate to them. I think that could
Nice.
be really helpful lah. Like, hey Johnny,
Okay.
I want to listen about work. Then I just click on the work. Hey, his experience in student council. Then just click on that. Talking about Formula One. So I can just skip like, oh, I hate Formula One. Just gonna skip to the next part. I think that could be really helpful lah. And
Okay.
you can
Okay.
cut this out, cut this part out as well. No worries.
No. I think this is good. This is good content. Like this, bro. We already talked for 1个小时50分钟 already. Like, I think this could be
Hey,
the
too
longest
long lah,
podcast
too
I've
long
had.
lah. Talk lah. Hey, need to cut to half ah. Need to cut to half ah.
Okay.
Too
Yeah,
long
that's something.
podcast ah. No one want to click on it.
Yeah, exactly. My brother also said. My brother and also my high school friend also said like, can you clip into like 15-minute sections, then I can listen one
Yeah.
section at a time. Yeah, like 1 hour 46 minutes. I won't listen to the whole thing. Then I said okay.
Yeah.
I said I will clip it, but I never did it actually. So yeah, I think
Yeah, maybe
today's
Justin,
episode.
for this one, please clip it. I would like, maybe let me put a task for you as an action item for you lah.
Okay,
Try
actually,
to clip it
okay.
and
Okay.
then remove all the thinking part, all the the noises lah, and then just cut it
Okay.
out and then put it aside. Like this one I was talking about in very generic things. Maybe you can just cut it out as well. That
Okay.
I don't know, man. I leave it to you. This is just my as a listener. Yeah.
Good. I think the entire podcast, all the content is good, but I think I will snip it. I'll put snippets out, like 15 minutes, 20-minute snippets of or topic based. So just snip based on a topic. Then people can
Yeah.
listen. So it doesn't have to. You don't have to listen in sequence even. You can listen front back because it's topic based. So I think you're right. I'll do the sections on the YouTube video, and based on the sections, I'll do the snippets as well. Thanks, man. I think this was
Awesome,
like
bro.
a very
Awesome,
nice
bro.
podcast. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate your time. Looking forward to having you back on, bro. Thank you so much. Take
Yeah.
care.
No problem. Let's say I see at least 1,000 subscriber, or even ambition is 10,000 subscribers. Yeah. We'll see you
Easy.
there, bro.
Easy peasy.
All right.
Okay. Take care, man. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye, everyone. Bye. Take care, man. Bye.